Recognizes Mr. Moskowitz from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Dodaro, good to see you again. I want to turn your attention to a high-risk area that is not necessarily on your list, but it's an issue that the GAO has published a number of reports about, and that is the risk of defaulting on our national debt. Mr. Dodaro, what would happen if the United States defaulted on our national debt?
I think it would have relatively catastrophic effects. You know, one of the reasons that, you know, the federal government, where the dollar is the, you know, the reserve standard, is because we have most of the most liquid markets, treasury markets in the world. And that provides a lot of safe, reliable investments on the part of a number of people. That's why a lot of reserve banks in other countries purchase treasuries. And I think, you know, we're borrowing such large amounts of money at a high pace that if we defaulted on our debt, I think we'd have a very difficult time convincing other people to borrow us. I mean, if you lend money to somebody and they didn't pay you back in time, would you give them more money? And we're pretty dependent on having.
Do you want me to answer that? I can answer
yes, just that's fine. But I've been trying for at least 6 years now, maybe longer, to try to get the way we set the debt ceiling changed. I think the way we have it now, you know, we're only one of 2 countries in the world that do this. The other one's Denmark, and they set their debt limit so high they'll probably never get there. So this is a problem. Right now, people, and what we've seen around these debt impasse periods is that people stop purchasing treasuries that might mature around a date, that there may be a potential default on this, so it distorts the treasury markets. It causes us...
Even
yeah.
before a default.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, and also you see, given the interconnected nature of our markets now, let's take, for example, just Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, 2 relatively small banks in the scheme of things, but even there can have potential systemic repercussions. So I think a default would have enormous repercussions here and would affect not only our economy, but have ripple effects throughout the world.
Yeah, and since 1960, the debt ceiling has been raised 78 times, 49 times under Republican presidents, 29 times under Democratic presidents, 18 under Ronald Reagan, 8 times under Bill Clinton, 7 times under George W. Bush, 5 times under Barack Obama, 3 times under Donald Trump. And, you know, this debt ceiling brinkmanship that we go into, I mean, I want to talk about how damaging, you know, you think that is as well. Just this continued conversation that we always have to have because the debt ceiling is used as leverage for other issues.
Yeah, well, it hasn't yet ever changed the trajectory of the long-term path of the federal government, which I've reported is on an unsustainable fiscal path. But it does raise the interest rates that people want to have to borrow us money. So in addition to distorting the liquidity, affecting the liquidity in the treasury markets and people avoiding purchasing treasuries, it costs us more money in the short run to borrow additional money. So it's really not, you know, an effective way. Like, for example, we've recommended that the debt ceiling be raised at the time Congress makes the appropriation decisions, you know, so it's done as a unified basis, or that Treasury have the ability to raise the debt ceiling whenever it's needed based upon the laws that Congress has already passed. All it does now is allow Treasury to borrow the money that Congress has already authorized and the President signed into law.
Right, and you know, we hear from our colleagues about the economy and the fall of the dollar and the fact that the dollar is the currency for the world and the rise of China, and we have a China Select Committee. I mean, nothing, in my opinion, could be more fuel for the rise of China and the fall of the United States in the eyes of the world than defaulting on our debt. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. But it will have economic but reputational consequences that will be felt for years if we ever defaulted, and I hope we never do.
No, thank you. I yield back.